host, Natasha Martinez, and this is the Daily Show where we give you all the latest news in the world of movies, plus some insight into what it all means. Joining us today is Kristian Harloff.
What is going on? It is Collider Movie Talk, once again with a really fun panel today to talk about the latest in movie news.
Also joining our panel, John Schnepp.
Hey, what's going on? We were just talking about BVS earlier. Just, you know.
Hey, what's going on? You're really stirring it up.
And our very special guest, Screen Junkies movie fight champion and the #1 schmoedown contender, Mr. Dan Murrell, is joining us.
Hi, it's a pleasure. It's my first time on
Debut.
Movie Talk. How's it going?
Nice to have
Yay.
Dan on. Yeah.
It's going to be fun.
All right, before we get into the topics that you see on the Drunk Sidebar, we are going to be talking about some news that dropped that we didn't get a chance to send over to the great Ray Ora. So let's talk about Sherlock Holmes. So there was an interview that I guess Robert Downey Jr. had mentioned during the Civil War junket, said, yeah, it was going to happen. It's just a matter of when. And then Joel Silver had an interview and said, no, it's going to happen. We're I think soon, within the next within the year, I think they said they're going to start shooting this thing. But then he was pushed something that was a little bit more interesting, because I don't think the third one's much of a surprise. But then they asked him if this was the end of it, and he's like, I hope not. This is a character just like Bond, where you can just as long as there's stories to tell, we can keep doing stories with this character. I don't know if I agree with all of that. I think that I would like to see a third one, because, and Schnepp and I were talking about this beforehand too, he didn't like the second one. I certainly didn't think it was a great movie. It was a step down from the first one. We both agree on that for sure. So I think I'd like to see a third one to see where they kind of go from there, because I did like the dynamic between Downey and Jude Law. I do think there are more stories to tell in that Sherlock Holmes universe, and I want to see where we can go. And if the third one is great, and I'm talking like good to great, then all right, then set me up for fourth. But let's not start talking about 4, 5, and 6 just yet. How do you feel about it?
Well, are they going to get the same director?
Well, Guy Ritchie is going to do the third one, yeah.
Yeah, you know, the second one I thought was pretty bad. And, you know, Joel Silver, he's a very entertaining guy. I was saying I wish he was in the third movie as like the villain, so he could gesticulate madly and like kind of repeat himself strangely. You know what I mean? He's like, he's so much fun to watch in that Nice Guys. There's a little Nice Guys commercial where he's kind of like ripping on both of the main stars. It's very, very entertaining. I really hope he's in the third Sherlock Holmes. That's really all I have to say about it.
All right, Dan?
Sherlock Holmes is the franchise for me. I haven't seen any of the new ones, either the Robert Downey Jr. versions. I think it's a little strange in that since they started this, I haven't seen either one. I think it's a little strange since they started this franchise that they have a version on television that's doing exceedingly well.
2 versions.
I'm talking about Elementary, of course, on CBS. No, with Cumberbatch.
Right.
So, sure, if they think they can do it, but again, it's just another ongoing franchise, an existing thing, and how much do they really want to put even more eggs in the basket of like, let's keep doing familiar characters. There's only so many times you can recycle characters and settings and franchises, and we're very Sherlock saturated, especially next year when the new Cumberbatch series comes out.
Right. That's the point, is that with that, and then you got the Johnny Lee Miller one.
Yeah.
So I don't know. All right, Natasha, what's next?
Okay, with its classic movie Monsters universe already in motion, Universal is now ready to develop new movies based on the creator of one of its most popular franchises. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, together with Zodiac and Amazing Spider-Man 2 writer James Vanderbilt, have closed a deal with Universal to produce a collective universe of films based on the best-selling novels of Robert Ludlum, who is best known for creating the Jason Bourne series that the studio has already turned into a massive movie franchise. The first feature being developed in the new Ludlum adventure is the Janson Directive, with The Rock starring. The story follows a former CIA operative, now the best private security consultant in the world, who is framed for a horrendous crime and must join forces with the protege sent to kill him in order to survive. Vanderbilt will develop 2 more stories, which will be adapted into screenplays based on Ludlum titles to tie into the universe. Kristian, thoughts on the Robert Ludlum shared universe with The Rock?
I like it a lot, and I'll tell you why. Because of what the monster movie shared universe is doing by its casting. Because this is Universal, I believe, as well, that's doing this, because it's the Bourne tied into that. Universal is the one who's putting out Bourne, so I'm assuming they're putting out this one as well. But what they've done with that monster so far with the Russell Crowe and Tom Cruise, I'm going to assume they're going to do the same thing here for this shared universe. Now, when you hear about the Janson Directive, it sounds a bit Bourne-esque. I mean, it's very similar, but who cares? Let's get more into that kind of serious, darker Bourne tone with The Rock as the lead, and then give me another cool agent inside of that and spin him off. I like the idea of doing shared universes in different settings and different genres of films as long as I care about the characters enough. So yeah, I'm on board for this, Dan.
I'm convinced that The Rock has cloned himself at this point because this is about. It seems like every week there's a new announcement of a new movie that The Rock is doing. Which he's a great. He's we don't have many movie stars left, and he is a fantastic movie star. His one thing that he hasn't proven is launching his own franchise apart. You know, San Andreas did well. I'm sure there'll be a San Andreas too. That's a good step in the right direction for him. This seems a little more serious. I think that he is very, you know, obviously we've worked with him on Screen Junkies a lot. He is one of the most passionate, enthusiastic people working in movies, and that's what you want. Someone that's going to be happy making a movie and be happy promoting a movie. Those are equal parts. So this is a very obscure cinematic shared universe, but I think that's not so bad because we have already so many Transformers shared universe and building on and on and on. There's going to be a Hanna-Barbera universe. Right. So I love spy movies, and if these are well done, if they're as well done as the Bourne movies, and you can make 2 or 3 different good spy franchises of more obscure titles, there's nothing. I'm on board.
Now, are these going to tie in with Jason Bourne?
I don't think so. I mean, well, who knows at this point? Because we'll see where. Because remember, it was hard enough to get Matthew. Who's Matthew?
Matt Damon.
Matthew Damon.
Matthew Damon. Yeah. Sir Matthew Damon.
Well, I call him Matthew.
He's close personal
it was hard
friends
enough
with
to
him.
get him back because then Paul Greengrass came along.
Sure.
So he's doing it. But who knows? Maybe this one, if there's more stories to tell.
I like the name, the Janson Directive. At least it sounds refreshing. I think of Klaus Janson instantly.
Klaus,
the amazing inker for Dark Knight Returns. The Janson Directive. I can't wait to see The Rock get serious, be a spy. I mean, he is one of those guys where he brings that charisma and fun to any role that he plays. So hopefully this is a little bit more serious and darker. Like I think he did it twice. What was the film?
Faster and Snitch.
Yeah, I liked Faster a lot. So I'd like to see him return to that kind of performance level. So I'm into it.
Okay. What's next?
Okay, Transformers, Indiana Jones, and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull star Shia LaBeouf will portray tennis legend John McEnroe in the upcoming biopic Borg McEnroe. The movie will tell the story of the intense rivalry between McEnroe and his Swedish opponent Bjorn Borg, who face off 14 times in the 1970s and 80s, splitting the wins with 7 each. The deal was announced at the Cannes Film Festival, where LaBeouf is supporting his American Honey, directed by Andrea Arnold. Stellan Skarsgård will also star playing the coach to McEnroe. Danish director Janice Metz will direct from a script by Ronnie Sandahl. Shooting is expected to begin this fall in Sweden, New York, London, and Monaco for a 2017 release. Schnepp, what do you think of Shia LaBeouf playing John McEnroe?
I love the casting. I mean, for all you youngsters out there who don't know who John McEnroe is, go on YouTube, watch some of his stupid commercials. He was a big crybaby. He was incredibly talented, but he was a lot of fun to watch. I remember watching John McEnroe play tennis, and it was a lot of fun match. He'd go into hysterics and throw his tennis racket and stuff like that. And so him fighting Bjorn for all these different matches is part of history. So getting a weirdo like Shia LaBeouf, who's like going to put a bag on his head, start crying, do some weird green screen calisthenics, and that's not even for the role. That's just what he does on his side, just his real life. So I like Shia LaBeouf as an actor. Whether the Johnny Countryman or whatever that one was called was actually like a shockingly, surprisingly good film, and he did a great job in it. So I can't wait to see him play McEnroe. I think it's perfect casting.
I think this is incredible casting. I think this is. We were talking about how Beauty and the Beast did it right with their amazing casting. Right. This is amazing casting, just from that side by side there. And yeah, I've took my shots at Shia LaBeouf over the years as far as his personal antics go. But then you see movies like Fury, and you see what he does, and the guy can act. But like you said, when he's screaming, just do it! That's McEnroe right there.
Right.
That's McEnroe when he's screaming, let your dreams be dreams. I mean, you can see him screaming at the refs. I can't wait to see him playing John McEnroe. I mean, this is almost a possible Oscar type stuff for him playing John McEnroe, because he's going to fit into it so well. You know he's going to live the role. The dude is super talented. I mean, you can say that he's the craziest mother on the planet, but he is a talented guy. So I think whoever put this together probably said, we're going to make a McEnroe movie, and the probably guy whoever's casting, Shia LaBeouf. Yeah. How did I come up with that? Because it's perfect. That's how you came up with it. Dan?
I agree. You're right. People get sidetracked by his sideshow antics, and he makes his personal life a sideshow, purposely or not. That's up for debate. But that green screen video makes so much more sense now because that was his audition video. That is perfect. Right. That is perfect for John McEnroe, and this is when I heard like Shia LaBeouf's going to play John McEnroe. It's like that's the casting I didn't know I wanted.
Right.
That's right.
That's perfect, and this could be an oddball, crazy, great. the weirder the better as far as I'm concerned with this movie.
Yeah, they got Stellan Skarsgård. He's perfect at playing a nutball too.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's like, who's playing Bjorn? And now they have to like ante it up.
I feel sorry
bit.
for whoever's playing Bjorn because they're going to get blown off the screen.
Over under 3. No, you know what? Over under 5 scenes with McEnroe screaming at the judge.
Over.
Well, it's going to be a montage. So I'm going to go over. Yeah, I'm going to go over.
I want 5 separate scenes of him freaking out and throwing a
With
racket.
some cool music.
Yeah, breaking up a hotel room. Not just in on the court. I want some madness outside of the court.
I love it. All right, now it's time for that part of the show where we buy or sell. Natasha's going to read some more stories in the world of movie news, and myself, Dan, and Schnepp are just going to buy or sell it. Natasha, what are we buying or selling?
Idris Elba and Matthew McConaughey will portray the gunslinger and the man in black respectively in The Dark Tower, which recently began principal photography. Fans have been long awaiting for this adaptation, which will be based primarily on the first novel, The Gunslinger, in which the title hero and the mysterious The Man in Black play a cat-and-mouse game as they head to the mystical tower at the center of Midworld, the fantastical world in which they live. During an interview on the Entertainment Weekly podcast, Stephen King spoke about the adaptation of the book, promising the film will begin as the book does, saying, "I expect that the movie will start where the books start, you know. The man in black fled across the desert and the gunslinger followed. I think that nails it right in place for people. I've been pretty insistent on that, and I think everyone's on board with it." He went on to talk about the changes for the movie, saying, "It starts sort of in media res in the middle of the story instead of at the beginning, which may upset some of the fans a little bit, but they will get behind it because it is the story." The Dark Tower will hit theaters on February 17th, 2017. Dan, buy or sell comments from King about the movie's changes from the book?
Call me cynical, but I'm selling this. Okay. No one is more protective of his works cinematically than Stephen King. He still talks about how much he hates Kubrick's The Shining because it changed his book, and the fact that those two statements are contradictory of one another. The difference here is that he's on board and he is a producer of this movie, and he has an obligation as the producer of the film to not cast aspersions. So I feel like, even through his involvement, they probably did change some stuff. I think that's what happens on any adaptation. But if you're asking me, do I think that he is absolutely 100% okay with them not starting the movie the way that he would have preferred? No, because he is so notoriously protective of his work.
I'm going to buy it. I understand everything that you're saying, but I think that from when you go back in 1980 or 81, whenever Shining came out, that it was a different Stephen King as far as power goes too. And I think that now you look at he's producing shows like, or he at least had some involvement with 11/22/63, and I thought that came out pretty good and pretty different from the novel from what I heard. I didn't get a chance to read the novel, but I do think that he's probably going to be in those meetings, and I think that, because I agree with you, they are very contradictory in those two particular statements there. But the first is, I think he's going to have those meetings going, guys, this is the way this particular story has to go, and I think they're going to listen to him that way, and I think that he's going to have to sign off on certain things for this one because it's taken so long to get here. Remember me rumors how many times was, we're getting Dark Tower. Oh, no, we're not. Ron Howard, no, we're not. Right. No, we're not. No, we're not. And we're finally getting it. So I think that he's probably part of those meetings that are saying, if we're going to make this happen, certain things have to happen. I can say, okay, fine, I get it. That makes sense for TV. The same way maybe like George R.R. Martin did, but more so than even George R.R. Martin did. So I buy it.
Yeah, I'm going to buy it too. I think, Stephen King having such like an insane amount of novels that he's written. I just said the story and I was like, oh yeah, he did The Dome, which is like a TV series. And then you look at the book and it's literally, it was right next to The Stand, which I remember reading. And I was like, wow, this is like a massive book. Then The Dome is like double the length. It's literally, I don't know how many, it's like 6,000 pages, whatever. It's insane. But for his adaptations, I think, look, as long as it gets made well, it might be a little bit different. Like you said, adaptations are always different from the source material, whether it's a comic book or book. They're completely different beasts. And I think he's a different, like you said, he's a different guy from the 1980s or the 90s or even, he's a different guy entirely. And that he's involved, I think that if it's slightly different, it's going to be okay. As long as look, Randall Flagg is being played by Matthew McConaughey. That's all I care about. I think that's incredible casting. And if King is behind it, then it's going to be very similar. Enough for me.
Yeah. Okay, now before I get to the next buy or sell, one of the things I forgot to do is every day here, I'm doing this the last week or two, Wendy Lee has been going through the chat room, and she looks at the great comments, gets rid of the ball bags, and today she is going to be taking some of those main topic comments and letting us know exactly what happened. Wendy, what were they saying about the first line of comments?
All right, well, let's go back to The Rock for Jason Directive. Some are into this because The Rock, and others are feeling like we're seeing The Rock in everything. Somatic Fiend says, sick of everything being a movie universe now. Stop it. And for the Shia LaBeouf story, a lot of the chat are actually on board with the casting choice. Django Fett Unchained says, this film could get Shia back on track. And Adam Rosen says, just do it.
I love that. All right, thank you, Wendy. We'll come right back to you when we finish the buy or sell here. Natasha, what's next up?
Variety reports that Brazil director Terry Gilliam has set a shooting date in October for his long-in-development, long-delayed Don Quixote movie. The new film will star Adam Driver as a young filmmaker who returns to an isolated village where he once shot a disastrous adaptation of Don Quixote, only to find the aftermath of the production is still plaguing him. Michael Palin will also star as an older member of the village community who believes himself to be Don Quixote, with Olga Kurilenko in a mysterious role playing the wife of the boss to Driver's character. The film will be shot in Spain, Portugal, and the Canary Islands, with Gilliam saying he hopes to have the movie in theaters by 2017. Kristian, buy or sell Gilliam's long-delayed Don Quixote adaptation getting off the ground this time?
I buy it. I think it's going to happen. I think there's an announcement for a reason. I think that they are going to push it, and I think also because they're going to play off the fact that Adam Driver is Kylo Ren. Get it out there, promote it. He's hot right now, even with Midnight Special. Not that it did so great, but he's doing a lot of different things, and this is another thing to do to add to his resume. So I do think this is going to happen. I do see Gilliam finally doing this, and I'm glad to hear that it's finally going to production. Dan?
I want to buy it so much.
Okay.
I really, really do. But it's not just Terry Gilliam. There's something about Don Quixote and movie versions of Don Quixote that just there's some kind of bad, I don't know what around it.
Orson Welles.
Failure. And then also just personally, I as much as it courts in the disappointment that Terry Gilliam had, Lost in La Mancha is such a great documentary about the last time he tried to do this. And it's almost kind of, I like that this is his great white whale, and I don't want to wish antagonism on the guy, but I just think the combination of the fact that he has such a history with this project and everybody has such a history with this project, it's just hard for me to buy it when I know that this is an ongoing thing, not just with him. So I have to reluctantly sell it, but I hope I'm wrong.
Okay. I'm going to buy it enthusiastically for the same reasons. I think I want Gilliam to see this one the one that got away, to see his version of it. And I know it's a different version. It's a totally different script, actually, from the one he was going to shoot with Johnny Depp. So he's gone through all these different iterations himself as he's moved along. So I think it's just the next step, the next journey. It doesn't take anything away from that documentary and the horror that he went through to try to make this film, but I like to see this actually being capped off. And it's something that he's wanted to make, and you could see it in all of his films ever since he didn't make that film. A lot of his films have just not hit that mark, and it feels like this one hopefully will. So I have a lot of enthusiasm to see this version of Don Quixote come to life.
All right, what's next?
Okay, fans who stuck around for the end credits scene of Deadpool were treated to a clever parody of an 80s John Hughes movie. Instead of it being just a gag without a payoff, this credits scene promised the big screen introduction of a Marvel Comics character for Deadpool 2, namely Cable. Creator of Deadpool himself, Rob Liefeld, recently spoke to Cinema Blend, revealing that the time traveler with a bionic arm was discussed as appearing in Deadpool's origin story, but the Merce with the Mouth's creator advised against it, saying, "I absolutely recommended that they not include Cable in the origin story of Deadpool because it wasn't necessary. That was on the table of things that were being considered, and I felt like, no, Deadpool is a good enough character. He can carry his own movie and doesn't need Cable. Similarly, it's a mistake I believe that Batman v Superman made. They tried to do too many things at once and tell too many stories." Liefeld went on to explain that the idea of holding Cable back was in order to slowly make the universe bigger, much like Marvel did. Though the likes of Stephen Lang and Dolph Lundgren are interested in playing Cable, no official casting announcements have been made. Schnepp, buy or sell Liefeld's comments and introducing Cable in Deadpool 2.
Is Cable with you? I thought he was with you.
I buy his comments. It's I'm sure he said that, but it doesn't have that much weight because it's sort of one of those things where it asks like, hey, what do you think? You and Fabian helped come up with this character in the comics. We'd like you to weigh in. We're going to do whatever we want, but let's hear what you have to say. So I think he did say those comments, and I'm sure that had some kind of weight to it. Like, look, let's hold off and see how Deadpool does on his own. And I think that was always the game plan, but it's nice to hear the guy who helped come up with the character chime in and say the same thing. So I buy it.
I buy them also. What I'm curious is, I wonder if he's going to get as many angry tweets as we did. But you see Liefeld saying these comments, and you hear. I think that also, to be fair though, I'm sure Tim Miller and Ryan Reynolds were like, all right, yeah, definitely. It wasn't. I don't think it was like a big fight. I think that they probably had a lot to do with the fact it wasn't. And obviously, Liefeld had a lot to do with it. He's a guy that knows him the best. I agree with his comments. Obviously, if you've seen the movie, I mean, I don't know your stance on Deadpool, but I think you liked it a lot.
I enjoyed it quite a bit, yeah. I really liked it.
And that particular movie, I think, just worked as its own, and it was because you had to set up Deadpool on who he was to introduce him to audience who wasn't familiar with him from the comics, and you also had to introduce this love story, too, and that was the main focus and should have been the main focus, and Cable's such a powerful character, or such a big character that you want to really introduce him a good way, and I thought it was smart the way they did it with that Ferris Bueller way at the very end with the end credit. So yeah, I'm excited to have him in the second movie. Totally agree with the comments that it was a great way to make this universe bigger.
Yeah, I absolutely buy that he said that. I'm absolutely sure that he's right. By the way, that doesn't mean that they were like, okay, Rob, bye, close the door. Right. Okay, guys, so we putting Cable in this movie. That doesn't mean that nobody else talked about it. But no, I absolutely believe that he made that recommendation, and it was the right recommendation to make. It's a little shade thrown there, I think, at
what you mean on the
DC
Masterpiece
and Warner Brothers, but yeah, no, I totally buy that he made that recommendation, and I'm glad that they listened to him, because that was the right decision for
You
the
think
movie.
Cable should be in the second one for sure?
Yeah, because Deadpool, you got so much Deadpool in the first Deadpool movie, and I think to make the second one all Deadpool again would be it's the comedy. It's in a way that it's going to be a comedy sequel. You have to find a way to reinvent it, and that's the only way that comedy sequels really always work. So yeah, I think that Deadpool, especially if they give him the dynamic with Cable that he's had in the comics, could really liven things up and reinvent it.
Well, speaking of the X-Men universe, we are doing a Days of Future Past commentary here on Collider. It goes up today, 2 p.m. Make sure you check it out. It was Schnepp for the first part, as well as Campia, Josh McCouga, and Mark Ellis. They all sat down, watched Days of Future Past, going up today at 2 p.m. So make sure, go pop in Days of Future Past before Apocalypse comes out and watch it with the crew. All right, what's next?
The first trailer for Personal Shopper has landed online just following the film's world premiere at the Cannes Film Festival. Kristen Stewart leads the thriller in a reunion with her Clouds of Sils Maria director Olivier Assayas. In Personal Shopper, Stewart plays an American celebrity fashion assistant and personal shopper who attempts to communicate with the ghost of her recently deceased twin brother. The film drew a mixed reception at Cannes, with audience booing the movie after its premiere. And though the movie has secured distribution, a release date has not been set. Dan, buy or sell the first trailer from Personal Shopper?
I'll buy it. It looks like a kind of a slow foreign art movie, which is what it is. Yeah, it got booed at Cannes. Taxi Driver got booed at Cannes. Sure. Inglourious Basterds got booed at Cannes. That's a notoriously fickle crowd, and you never know. Yes, some bad movies have been booed there, but some good movies have been booed there as well. And Kristen Stewart, people get caught up in the Twilight thing. And, that was probably a good move for her monetarily, but maybe not so much career-wise, because that's all people see. And I think that she is a person and an actress who, if she's invested in something, she can give a really great performance. If she's not invested in something, it will show on screen that she's not invested in it. And I think that people, that's how they see her. So I'll buy it.
I agree with everything you said. However, I am going to sell the trailer, but I have been on the Kristen Stewart train lately because she has been showing up in the last couple of movies she's doing. She looks really good in that new Woody Allen movie as well in that trailer. But there's something about this one I do think I don't know if she's as invested, because I'm getting that more of that kind of sad, mopey Kristen Stewart, and I don't know if that's just necessarily what the character might call for. And I might look at this movie and go, you know what, that surprised me. There she goes. She showed up again. But I also don't know about the premise of the personal shopper other than talking to the dead brother in the tub. And it's like, yes, it could be an art film. It could be something that just surprised me and turns out to be really creepy. But this particular trailer didn't win me over in any way that I'm like, oh, I can't wait to see that one.
Well, I'll buy it. I like the director on some of his films, and most of the films I don't like. I loved Demon Lover. I loved Irma Vep. He is an experimental filmmaker. He's also made a lot of tepid, kind of boring films. Clouds of Sils Maria was horrible, I thought. Personally, Juliette Binoche is an incredible actress. But Kristen Stewart stole that movie. I thought she was the greatest performer in that film, and she was the most interesting character.
And still Alice, she was pretty good, too.
Yeah, I didn't see that one. But for the Clouds of Sils Maria, unfortunately, I did see it. But she was the high point of that film. Seeing this trailer, I felt elements of that, but even more. So I really buy this trailer and also the experimental nature of it. It could be a creepy, weird art film. So I'm all in.
Okay. Before we move on, let's talk to Wendy, who's been looking at the chat room during Buy or Sell. Wendy, what were they saying? What did I just say? Who cares?
All right, let's go all the way back to the Dark Towers story. A lot of the chat is buying this, though some are disagreeing, saying a book should just stay a book. Let's just read it. It's a masterpiece. Anthony Mendoza says buy, maybe because this is the best Stephen King novel. On the Don Quixote adaptation, the chat was pretty divided on this. Some are buying it as long as they do the character well, and others are saying it'll be a bust. For Cable in Deadpool 2, lots of buys. They're throwing out their casting choices like Ron Perlman, John Cena, John Hamm, and Dave Bautista. And last but not least, for Personal Shopper, the chat's pretty much selling this, and they're just not really into Kristen Stewart.
Yeah.
As far, I guess, the one comment, though, that I don't agree with is a book should just stay a book. You don't get Jaws if a book just stays a book.
No. The Godfather, by the way, too. A bit of a pulpy... And Jaws, both kind of pulpy, much improved by their movie adaptation.
So yeah, there's lots of books that definitely should be movies, and I actually think Dark Tower should be one of them. But I also understand where you're coming from. It depends on how it's maneuvered. Yeah. All right, now it is time for opening this week, brought to you by our friends at AMC Theaters. Natasha, what's coming out this week?
Opening this week is The Nice Guys. Holland March, played by Ryan Gosling, is a down-on-his-luck private eye in 1977 Los Angeles. Jackson Healy, played by Russell Crowe, is a hired enforcer who hurts people for a living. Fate turns them into unlikely partners after a young woman named Amelia mysteriously disappears. Healy and March soon learn the hard way that other dangerous people are also looking for Amelia. Their investigation leads to some dark places, as anyone else who gets involved in the case seems to wind up dead.
I loved this movie. Loved it. It is coming out. I don't know if you guys had a chance to see it, but
Not yet.
It is look, I love Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. Is it as good as Kiss Kiss Bang Bang? No. But you certainly feel Shane Black's stamp in this movie. The dynamic between Russell Crowe and Ryan Gosling alone is enough to go see it. I think that some of the Red Band trailer gave away some of the really good jokes, but I still was happy to see them. Once they happen, I still got a good reaction from me after watching them. I think that it's just good setup. Doesn't take place at Christmas, which is a different thing from Shane Black.
Wow.
Yeah, I think there's maybe one particular scene, but it doesn't take place at Christmas. But there's just that dialogue. There's just that you can feel. Shane Black's one of those guys that he's like becoming like the star of the, it's become like an event. I hope people go out and see this movie, because I know it's not the big kind of genre summer film, but it is a movie that you will enjoy. Very violent, definitely earns its hard R, but it's a good movie. Dan, are you excited to see this movie?
From the time that first trailer came out, this rocketed to the top of my I can't wait to see this list.
Right.
It's a little odd to me that it's coming out in the dead heat, or at least the middle of the summer, especially with so competitive these next few weeks. But I do hope it doesn't get lost in the shuffle. I love Shane Black. I'm one of the few people that like Iron Man 3. Really like Iron Man 3, because he put his own personal stamp on that, and I like that it's a Marvel movie and a Shane Black movie. And Kiss Kiss Bang Bang for me is like, when you say it's not as good as Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, it's like, well, yeah, but
right.
There aren't many movies that are as good as Kiss
Yeah.
Kiss Bang Bang. So I can't wait to see this. I'm really excited to see it this weekend.
I constantly get paychecks from Marvel and Disney, so I have to say I also am one of the few people who enjoyed Iron Man 3 immensely. I love Ben Kingsley. I love the flip. It even made me, I got an extra kick out of people who were like, they lied to us about the Mandarin. It's like, relax. You know what I mean? So it was like one of those, it was a really fun film.
Yeah.
This film, I agree. I've been waiting for this film since I saw the first trailer, and every trailer since I've kind of side watched, because like they ruin too much in the trailers nowadays. So I just like side look at it as I watch it, because I don't want every single sequence to be ruined for me. And like, if you watch films, you could put it all together. You're like, oh, that happens there, this happens there, oh, they just showed the ending. It's not rocket science, and they always put too much in the trailers now. So after I see the first trailer, I kind of side watch them. I cannot wait to full watch this movie, so I buy this.
All right, The Nice Guys comes out this weekend. Are you going to go check it out? Let us know in the comments. If not, what are you going to see this weekend? Thank you once again to our friends over at AMC, and it is opening this week. Now, before we get into Mailbag, we have a little thing that happens here every Friday called the Movie Trivia Schmoedown. The league has been heating up. We are building contenders, and the guy to my right is currently the number one contender. Why? Because he has been a dominant force in Screen Junkies movie fights. He's the reigning champion for the last year and a half. He's going up against a very tough opponent in Scott Movie Man Mance. There it is right there. Murrell versus Mance. The winner of this match goes on to play Mark Yodi Riley for the title. Dan, you and I have been friends for a little bit here, fellow Seminole. Now, there's been like a very fun, friendly rivalry between Screen Junkies and Collider here.
Yeah, a little trash talk back and forth.
Little trash talk.
Yeah.
You're not the big. You go in and you talk by the way you play the game.
Exactly.
Does Scott Mance, even though we've seen him talk some crap with Roca.
Yes.
What's this match going to be like? What do you think is going to happen?
I think that it is a match of mutual respect, but I can't lose track of that once it starts. He is my opponent, and my job is to beat him.
Yeah.
And so that's what you have to do. You can't, it's not all, once the game starts.
It's that wheel, man.
It's
movie dates.
that wheel. If the movie dates is on that wheel and he gets it, I'm going to be very upset.
It's a possibility. So let's fast forward real quick and say that let's say that you win. Let's say you beat and you get that shot at
That's
the
a
title
big let's say.
I know.
That's a big
I'm
let's
saying
suppose.
if it happens, and
Yeah.
Riley, because you guys used to play together on a team, you think you can beat Riley?
Yeah.
All right, I like the confidence. Schnepp, who do you got in tomorrow's match?
Well, just from the photo image alone, I think Murrell wins just by looking sort of like the Terminator, and then you have just Mance looks like some kind of like sandwich that you're just ready to a very happy sandwich that someone's about to take a bite out of. I mean, that's just from the photo alone. I know there's flames around him, but it doesn't do anything other than it looks like
on fire
you're
5
cooking
seconds
him. Yeah,
afterwards.
he's getting cooked right now. So just from the photo alone, but Mance he's not like. Look, Sam Levine is like that creepy mutant who has like the weird powers of like, you hear something and he just can needle drop tell you what it is. But I think Mance, it's going to be a good fight with you guys because you both have a lot of those little nuggets of trivia that they're around the corner of your brain. They just come out really quick. Like for me, I'm like, I can't remember stuff. They're like, oh, of course it's this. It was this date it came out. This is the year. This is the time. This is what the whole cast, everybody. So it should be really exciting. It should be down to the wire.
Well, it goes down tomorrow, 2 p.m. on Collider's channel. If you haven't watched any of the past matches, you want to watch Dan's first match against John Campia, go and check that out. All of the matches are, if you want to watch Schnepp's match against Finstock, they're all up there. Go check it out. All right, now we want to hear from you guys. And the way we've been doing that over at Mailbag, you guys submit collidervideo@gmail.com. We go through them, we pick them, we talk about them. Natasha, what's up first?
Kurth Warren writes, "Hey Collider crew, been a fan for years now. Love the job you folks do. What trailer has tricked you the most? After watching the trailer, your expectations for the film was different from your movie-going experience. Mine most recently was Love the Coopers. I went in ready to laugh my rear off, but generally was very disappointed. And for the other end of the spectrum was Fight Club. I went in expecting just an okay fight movie, but came out loving the film. Thanks for your time and keep bringing the filthy."
I got two. I have one that made me think it was going to be good and was a pile. And then I have one that I thought was going to be terrible and wound up being great. The first trailer was Last Airbender. That trailer is good. You watch that trailer and I was like, okay, wait a minute. Shyamalan doing a fantasy movie on a pretty proven Nickelodeon show with a pretty good fan base and just kind of fantastical elements to it. This could be a new franchise. I can't wait. And it is torture. I mean, it is complete and utter garbage. It's like almost like watch along comedy bad. It's that bad. Have you ever seen it?
Oh no.
Oh, we're gonna do the commentary. You're gonna watch it with us.
Why would you subject him to that?
I don't know if I could do it.
Because when you hear him, like, I want to see his face and I want to hear his comments. When it's so bad. I mean, it's really, really bad. Now the good one was Edge of Tomorrow. Because the Edge of Tomorrow trailer basically just looked like, hey, we're going to do Oblivion all over again. Here you go. And Oblivion, some people liked it, but it was to me, it was fairly dull. And I figured we were getting the same movie.
With a little bit of Matrix thrown in there.
Yes. Yeah. And I just didn't know what was happening. And I was like, I don't know. This is going to be terrible. And I loved that movie. It was one of my favorites of that year. So those are the two that tricked me. Schnepp?
I'm glad you brought that up. Live, Die, Repeat, whatever the hell you want to call it. All you need is kill. It's got 25 different titles. That's one of the reasons they effed it up. The marketing people, give yourselves a hand, and I hope you all got fired. The ones I hated that I got tricked, I'll just go recent. Really, I'll go with this last year, sorry. Alice Through the Looking Glass. I got tricked by that trailer. They had the Jefferson airplane. Yeah. They showed you all the trippy sequences. They had a little bit of Sasha's weird humor, some disjunctive editing. I was like, oh, it's going to be a little bit different. It's going to take that colorful, really cool Burton thing and kind of give it a real story. And I was like, they didn't give it anything. It has no story. It's a bland mess. It's horrible. It's torture. It's boring. It's garbage. I wouldn't take anybody's kids to it. I hope it they burn it.
So you liked it?
Hated it. The Counselor. Ridley Scott's The Counselor, the
good
trailer
one.
for it. He's like, oh my God,
man.
look at all these incredible actors.
Yeah.
They got Cormac McCarthy to write the script. This is going to be incredible. Ridley Scott, horrible film. Horrible film. Doesn't make any sense. There's like really long, like 4 or 5 page sequences that don't like. Here, I'm going to write a scene for this actor for like 6 pages that has nothing to do with the movie and doesn't add up. So that movie's horrible. And then Let's Be Cops I laughed through the trailer, and those were like the funniest moments that are in the trailer are in the film, and the rest of it feels like a really bad stretched out SNL sketch, which wasn't funny.
Yeah.
The one movie that I loved that I wasn't expecting to love from the trailer was The Witch.
Oh, yeah?
And I saw the trailer for The Witch, and I was like, oh, everybody's talking about how great and scary this is. It just looks like a bunch of cornfields and a bunch of pilgrims and, the goat, Black Phillip, whatever. Then you see the movie, and it will scare the piss out of you. I thought it was a really well done, slow burn. It's a great film.
And Black Phillip was pretty creepy.
Yeah.
Dan?
Well, two terrible movies that had, I thought, great trailers were X-Men: The Last Stand and Green Lantern. Particularly Green Lantern.
Right.
The trailer for
Comic-Con
Green
trailer,
Lantern
too, yeah.
was fantastic. It made it look like every Green Lantern fan's wildest dream come true when it ended up not being very good.
That's a good one.
Actually, the Deadpool trailer left me a little cold based on what the actual movie was. But the one that tricked me more than anything recently was American Ultra. And it's not, and I didn't love that movie, but the trailer sold a different movie, and I don't think it did the movie any favors because it sold it as a Pineapple Express. Like they literally have him, they Frankenbite him in the trailers, like, oh, I got to go kill people, but first I'm gonna get high, and they completely misrepresented what the movie was about, and I think it really to that movie's detriment.
Sure.
And when I went to see that movie, I was just like, this is not at all what I thought this movie was.
And you're like pleasantly surprised.
I was surprised.
Okay.
Yes.
Not pleasant.
Right.
I was surprised to varying degrees.
All right, fair enough.
But I did think that the marketing department didn't do it any favors because it recruited a certain audience to go see that movie that maybe that movie was not necessarily intended.
Let me add one more. John Carter. Which,
Good or
going
bad?
back, no, the trailer's horrible. The film is actually a really well done film.
It's an underrated movie.
It's way
I
underrated.
agree.
I was incredibly shocked at how much fun I had seeing that film, but the trailer was garbage.
Yeah. All right, what's next?
Tampa Movie Guy writes, hello from sunny Florida. While franchise films and comic book movies are great, I find it harder to find studios taking a chance with something different. One movie I think is very unique is A Nightmare Before Christmas. The tone created by Danny Elfman's music and the stop-motion animation is one of a kind. What movies do you think stand out as the most unique?
I find myself giving this movie as an example for every question that comes up, but Dread. I think Dread is another one I thought was really unique because not only does it hide the lead actor's face the entire time, it was rated R comic book movie that went that extra step even before. I mean, there are rated R comic book movies that came before Deadpool, obviously, but I thought that I was hoping Dread would be the one that was kind of the standout movie, but it was different. I thought it took some of the elements from The Raid, but I think that it kind of stands out as being unique all on its own.
Definitely. For me, I mean, I got a little list here. Definitely Sin City because of just the stylistic approach to taking Frank Miller's comic book and like just literally bringing it to life. Really well done. Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. I thought that's a fantastic film that delves into each other's minds and shows what people are thinking and visually. Bronson is another one. Blue Velvet, and of course Terry Gilliam's Brazil. Yeah. So
I throw Inception in there, obviously, too.
No. I'm going to go back to the mid-2000s, and I feel like this is a movie that's been buried. I don't even know if it's on Blu-ray or DVD anymore, but it's one of the craziest movies I've ever seen. It starred Clive Owen and Paul Giamatti. It's a movie called Shoot 'Em Up.
Oh, yeah.
And it was designed to be like a Looney Tunes, Bugs Bunny versus Daffy Duck, Roadrunner, Wile E. Coyote cartoon, but live action. And it is hyper violent. It's the movie that Hardcore Henry was without the stupid first-person gimmick, and that the action was just completely off the wall, completely nuts. Everyone in that movie is just
over the top.
They know what they're doing. They're so far over the top. The action is so far over the top. It is a love it or hate it movie, but it's one of the most unique, different movies that I've ever seen, and I just feel like it's like it never existed. It's just vanished.
Well, I mean, it's like they never gave that director another shot.
No.
I mean, that was his first time directing. He was really a storyboard artist, and they kind of let him do it. And Clive Owen, everybody in it. I remember seeing it. I didn't like it, but I thought the action sequences were really well done. So I think it's worth a second look. I'd love to see if it's out on any of the streaming services. So.
I've never seen. I used to own it. I don't even know where I used to have it on DVD, and I don't know where the DVD is.
Right.
It's disappeared.
Can't get on Amazon or anything?
I don't know. Maybe you can,
Yeah, it's
but I
called
just
Shoot 'em Up.
No one's ever mentioned it. No one's ever said that they've seen it. Shoot 'em up. It's just such a weird, different, crazy,
It really
unique
is,
film, and I don't know if it would get made today. But it's just. For me, it's not the greatest movie ever, but it just kind of stands apart because it is so unique and so different.
All right, that's everything for Mailbag. Now it's time for live Twitter questions. You guys have been tweeting in at Collider Video, and Natasha's been going through them, and we're going to talk about them. Natasha, what are they saying?
Gary Richardson asks, will X-Men Apocalypse's box office be affected by it being the 4th big superhero film released in the last 4 months?
Ooh, Dan, what do you think?
Potentially, I feel like we're seeing even with Marvel, Civil War opened below Ultron. I think that there is, in general, franchise fatigue. So I don't know how much it will be affected, but the one thing that I think is going across all boards with movies in general, because there's so many now, it's not critic-proof. There's a time where I think that an X-Men movie would be critic-proof. I don't know if this one would be critic-proof. So if it's bad, I don't think it's as invulnerable as maybe they're used to.
Yeah, it's a great point. The other thing that I think that's going to not necessarily, I think that could hurt it more is release date this time. And I know that X-Men has usually come out in May traditionally, but I think they might have been better off moving a little bit, because you just had Batman v Superman in March, and then you had this one, and then you just had Civil War in the beginning of May, and then you're hitting them again with Apocalypse. Because remember, regardless if you have fatigue or not, it's expensive to go to the movies.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're going, if maybe you're like, okay, you know what, I'm going to go and I'm going to take the family out in May. I'm Civil War, X-Men, maybe it's take them to see Angry Birds. What am I taking to see right now? And maybe that's going to hit it too. Or maybe we're all wrong and it just crushes and it does better than all of them. But I agree with you that I don't think that this one is particularly critic-proof. I think because of everything that's kind of come before, and whether it's not the critics didn't maybe love Batman v Superman, and maybe some of that maybe did or didn't have an effect on Civil War, and then there's a trickle effect going into this one. It's interesting.
Yeah, I don't think there's superhero fatigue. I mean, this is the third Captain America film, and it's the highest grossing Captain America film. It's not an Avengers movie, but it's got a lot of Avengers in it. But I know what you're saying. I think X-Men Apocalypse will suffer from what critics are going to say about it, less so than the fatigue of seeing superheroes fighting on screen. I think everybody who didn't enjoy Batman v Superman probably enjoyed Civil War. There's a lot of people vice versa, whatever. X-Men has been a divisive series from the get.
Yeah.
I think Days of Future Past did it brought a lot of people back into the fold. So we'll see how it goes, but I'm looking forward to seeing what the reaction of the audience is. I've seen it, we've all seen it. Like to see what the regular folks who didn't get a chance to see it a month ago think. It's like,
All right, Mr. Oracle, how much is X-Men going to make opening weekend?
say 150.
150. That's a big number. What do you think?
Wait, well, it's opening against Alice. I was going to go with about 78.
Yeah, I'm going to go 82.
Yeah.
I'm going to go 82. How about you guys? What do you think X-Men Apocalypse is going to make opening weekend? Are you crazy enough to go against the Oracle? You're right on the same page with me. All right, what's next?
That was so nonchalant.
Perfect.
I was like, whatever.
Hey, you know what?
Okay.
I hope I'm wrong. Stop calling me the Oracle. I say 300 million. Actually, whatever.
And one of it hits 300 million.
What? No.
Okay, Rob Cartel asks, thoughts on Daniel Craig turning down almost $100 million to return for 2 more Bond movies?
I know this is rumor. It's been coming around. Like, no, there's some sites that are reporting on it. There's some that aren't. So we didn't talk about it as a main story today because we're not sure yet what this story is. Did he turn it down? Look, there's been a lot of rumblings to the fact that he didn't want to play the role for anymore. He was done with it, and he's been and
He's been crying about it for years.
for a while. He's been vocal on it. He doesn't want to do it anymore. So maybe he's just done with it. I wouldn't be surprised, and I actually think that this is probably true. But again, until it's confirmed, I'd be kind of interested. We've been talking about doing a new Bond, whether that's Idris Elba or even Clive Owen or somebody, or Henry Cavill, somebody new. I kind of would like to see a new Bond. I'd also be very happy if Daniel Craig decided that he wanted to come back, because I didn't love Spectre. I just thought that it could have been a lot better. But so I would like to see that story continued, but I also wouldn't be devastated if they got somebody new. Dan?
I am a huge James Bond fan, and it's so strange because we're one movie removed from Skyfall, which one of the best Bond movies ever, and then this one he wasn't into it. They left it in such a weird place. It's like this is going to be if they can't continue the story because it's too much of a personal story. And do you bring Christoph Waltz back? Do you not? Spectre I was so excited for. It was the most disappointing movie for me last year. I'm really torn because part of me says that Spectre was such a bummer that maybe it is time to start over. But the other part says that I think there's potential there. I think that Daniel Craig is one. We've just seen him be in one of the best James Bond movies ever,
Right.
and so I don't know what to think because I can see it going great either way, and I can see it going terribly either way. This is very divisive for me.
Yeah, I wish he just left it at Skyfall. To me, because it's up and downs. Quantum of Solace was like, that was a pretty bad film.
Awful.
Spectre was horrible and super disappointing. I'm with you. It's like I was really looking forward to it. And it just failed on so many levels, story levels, the acting levels. I thought Christoph Waltz was horrible, overacting. I mean, he's won multiple Oscars, but he can also suck in things. So this was one of those things where I just felt he was miscast. It should have been amazing, but wasn't. And Daniel Craig felt like he was floating through the movie. So when I heard about him complaining about it even before Spectre came out, he's like, I don't want to do this. Being James Bond is silly and easy and this. And he had a lot of negative things to say about being James Bond. I seriously hope he's done. I would like to not see him play James Bond anymore. He was amazing in Casino Royale and Skyfall, and look, he did a great job at reboosting and reinvigorating the James Bond role. I think it's time for someone else to come on and get some young director and a brand new person to play James Bond.
You got a top choice?
Nope.
Not yet?
Nope.
Okay. All right, let's do one more.
Okay, Kyle Duran asks, in honor of the nice guys, what is your favorite Ryan Gosling performance in a movie?
Lars and the Real Girl.
Half Nelson, which was one of his early ones. I think he got nominated for an Oscar for
wow.
that movie. Really good in that movie.
Okay.
I liked him in Drive, and I also really liked him in that second Nicholas Winding Refn film, the weird one, the Thai boxing.
Oh, the Only God Forgives?
Thank you.
Yes.
Only God Forgives.
Yes.
I really liked that.
And then Place Beyond the Pines, which we talked about yesterday. Actually, all right, that was a shorter one. Let's do one more.
Okay, Derek Large asks, thoughts on Joe Pesci passing on The Irishman?
I heard this and I was like,
What?
Yeah, I heard
No,
this.
he didn't pass
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
I heard this. I was
Daily News
devastated.
reported it.
I was devastated that he turned it down. He hasn't been acting for a long time. Some Snickers commercials.
He's turning Louis C.K. down. He's turning. It was like, Pesci, come on, man.
Maybe the guy just doesn't want to do Rick Moranis. He just doesn't want to act anymore. If you turn down Scorsese, you don't want to act anymore. It's not because you don't want to work with Scorsese.
You're right.
It's like if you can't. If he doesn't want to do it anymore, you can't really say, "How dare you, sir?" He doesn't want to act anymore.
But then who greenlit it? Because they sold the movie based on the fact, like, we got De Niro and Pesci. They're both going to be in it. Like, they sold this movie based on that.
Well,
and now,
De Niro and Pacino.
And Pacino and Pesci, right. And now they're like, oh, by the way, maybe not Pesci.
But you still got Pacino, you still got De Niro, you still got Harvey Keitel.
But we've seen a lot of Pacino
and Harvey Keitel, but you didn't. But not with Scorsese, though.
Not with Scorsese.
Not with Scorsese.
That's
Having
true.
them back with Scorsese, and to see that. Look, would I love Joe Pesci back? Absolutely. You kidding me? But maybe bring in some of the new school. Bring in DiCaprio. Maybe I don't know what the role.
Maybe he was already planning on that.
Maybe.
Pesci, what's wrong with you? Come on.
It breaks my
Why
heart.
Are you doing this?
But I'm not going to break the guy's balls for not.
All right, it's his life.
It's his life.
Yeah.
It's my life.
I would
There
love
we
to
go.
see him come back for one last role, though, and win an Oscar or something. That would be so great because
be
people forget about Joe Pesci.
Yeah.
He's been gone for so long.
He was so good. All right, Wendy, what were they saying about the Twitter and mailbag questions?
Well, let's start with the X-Men box office, whether it be affected because it's fourth superhero film. The chat was pretty much one-sided on this, but some of the chat agrees with Schnepp about the review affecting the box office results, and then they're giving out their own prediction on the box office, anywhere ranging from 65 million to 110 million. For Daniel Craig turning down Bond, Nerd Fighter Pilot says, I'd rather get someone new that wants to do it than have a Bond movie where he's just mailing it in. And casting choices from the chat room for the next Bond would be Tom Hiddleston, Henry Cavill, Idris Elba, Michael Fassbender, and for the Joe Pesci story, WTF? Why? No.
I know. Poor Joe. That's it. Thank you.
Let me revise my X-Men Apocalypse 50 million.
50? We're dropping
Wow.
down that. Perfect.
kidding.
We'll find a final number as we get closer, I'm sure.
Yeah.
One of the things to let you guys know about before we say goodbye is we have a best of the week here that we do every Saturday. Perry is hosting it, and it's everything happening in the world of Collider, all the shows that we're doing. And one of the things that we've been doing is you guys, if you submit your meme of the week, I always forget the email address, so someone's going to scream it out to me. Mailbag@collider.com. I knew it off the top of my head. You submit there a meme. We will focus on those memes, and there's a great blooper reel on every show. So if you haven't been watching that, please go check it out. I would like to thank the panel today. First, Mr. John Schnepp. Where can I find you?
You guys can find me on Twitter and Instagram, just @JohnSchnepp.
The debut of Dan Murrell. Dan, where can I find you?
You can find me. I have a show on Screen Junkies Plus right now called Summer Movie Report. We just started. We're tracking summer movies all summer long with Sasha Pearl Raver. She's my co-host. She crunches our box office numbers for it. But you can find us on Screen Junkies Plus. We have like 20 shows there. Movie Fights Live, which you both have been guests on. Really exciting stuff. We're already premiering new stuff. We got some new stuff coming up with How It Should Have Ended and Jeremy Johns, and we're really excited by it. And if you go to screenjunkies.com, you can try it for free. So, just give it a shot. It's fun. It's a good time.
Yeah, go check it out. I've been watching TV fights and movie fights there weekly, so go and check it out. Natasha Martinez, where can they find you?
You guys can find me all on Instagram and Twitter at NatashaLexis_.
You can find me hosting tomorrow the matchup between Mr. Dan Murrell and Scott Mance for the legit #1 contender to face Mark Yodi Riley for the title. It's going to be a great match. Go and check that out. Check out Best of the Week. Check out Heroes. Check out Jedi Council, TV Talk. There's a lot of great stuff for you guys here. Go and check it out, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Hey guys, if you like this video, click the thumbs up button. Also, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. It'll help you stay up to date with everything we've got going on here at Collider.